Right, let's make some of those changes then. So number one, straight away, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to adjust the pose. Okay, so we want to get rid of that kind of arched back before we do anything else. Now the funny thing is here, we're not actually going to change the position of the head because the head is actually a separate subtool, if you notice. Okay, but this is the cool thing about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the masking feature of ZBrush on the body. Okay, so generally I'm going to try and ask her to arch or move her lower back a little bit more upright rather than leaning so far forward. So I'm going to come in here holding down control and just paint an overall mask that goes all the way up to the top, encompasses everything above that part there. And don't forget to get the rear section as well, and you just want it slightly above the buttocks there, and you know, trim it up a little bit if you like. But try not to make the line too deliberate. So what we can do is we can control click on the mask several times and you can see it just kind of softens out that gradient there. So we get a bit of a smoother kind of rotation. But now we want to rotate that part we've just masked. So let's invert that mask and control click outside of ZBrush. Okay, and we're going to go to the rotate tool. Now it's entirely up to you if you want to use the rotational gizmo there, but you can see annoyingly it's kind of attached it to her finger. You can hold down Alt and click in the middle to try to change the position of it, but honestly I'm very much used to the old way, the old kind of tools, move, scale and rotate tool that ZBrush used to have, and in this sense I almost kind of prefer it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect the gizmo and I'm going to make sure symmetry is off. And I'm just going to draw from this midsection here up to there, about her shoulders. And you can see that's generally created this line here. Now this is the access point, so I'm just going to pull on this point, left click and drag that back. And just basically ask her a little bit to kind of move a little bit back furthermore. And then I'm going to grab the axis, the origin point here, and push that back in as well. And you can see there, that's just getting her already to stand a bit straighter than she was before. Now you might be thinking, oh god, that's awful, the head's been displaced. Don't panic, we're going to fix that now. Okay, so once you're happy with this kind of lower end there, relatively standing a bit straighter, you can see there that that's quite a straight section. We're going to go back to our draw tool, get rid of that mask by holding down control, click and drag a box and let go. And then we're going to come over here, let's turn symmetry back on, and we'll just kind of get the top layer of our abdominals there. Grab everything else. So we're basically shifting our mask up a little bit. Make sure you selected the head part as well. And basically just kind of come in and clean that up a little bit. We want somewhere like that. We want to kind of capture the back muscles a little bit as well. Okay. But then control click on the mask several times to really soften that gradient out. Okay. Just so that we don't have any harsh seam lines when we do rotations. And of course we want to rotate that masked part, so let's control click an empty space to flip the mask. We'll go to rotate again and we'll draw a new line, this time the origin point being somewhere here. And then dragging it out up to the top again. Okay, turn symmetry off. And then let's ask it to kind of lean a little bit more forward, something like that. And you can actually line it up with the head again. Okay, something like that. Alright. So she's standing up a lot more straighter now. She's still got a kind of arch in the back, so what we could do is we could just ask her to lean a little bit more forward, something like that. Okay, and let's actually just do a third layer. Let's go back to a draw and we'll just bring our mask up a little bit. Let's add symmetry again. We'll just underneath the breast slightly there, just coming around the back a little bit higher up, and then control click several times, made that a bit softer. Draw a new rotational line from here, and let's just ask her to lean back a little bit again, something like that. Okay, so hopefully the desired effect there, just kind of bending it in a few places, is we've kind of gotten rid of that really kind of aggressive arch. She is arching back still, but that's because of the pose she stood in. Okay, but we're actually going to get much more natural folds on the back here now, and it's not going to just be all tight across the chest. Okay, let's go back to our draw tool here. The abdominals aren't quite in the right positions here, so we're going to have to tweak them a little bit with the move tool. And again, your mileage may vary depending on how you did the rotations, but I'm just going to push her stomach in a little bit more. Okay, so just so that the kind of upper abs there are not sticking out too much, and then of course use the smooth tool, kind of blend it out. Okay, and already you can see that by this kind of more, what could we say, upright stance, the breasts are not so out there, but these do still need to be adjusted a little bit. So what I'd recommend doing is going to your smooth tool and changing the intensity up to 50 rather than 100, and just shrink the size down a little bit. Again, imagine how we would stick out if she was wearing quite a conservative bra. And we could always push them in a little bit, something like that. Okay, just so that when we come to do the kind of clothes, they don't just get caught on the breasts and that's it. That's the only definition you've got. Of course, we've kind of flattened that a little bit too much. Let's just pull it out a little bit. We don't want it to have no breasts at all. Okay, so again, don't worry too much about the anatomy here. It's fine. Okay, there we go. And then we have to do the same for the buttocks. So I personally think buttocks are rather large here, so I'm also going to change the width here. So I'm just going to bring that in a little bit more, make it a bit more of a more typical body type. And then of course I'm going to move the buttocks over in a little bit, and then of course reduce the size on them quite significantly, because I imagine this character to be a bit more lean. And then just kind of bring it down a bit, and then use your smooth brush. Okay. Try not to change the fundamental proportions of the anatomy, just make tweaks. Just make tweaks. Okay, I'm gonna kind of, if you want to shrink something, like generally like the size, like maybe the thickness or something like that, you could try two tools. You could use the pinch tool, but because the legs are so close together, you might have mixed results like that, and you don't want that. Okay, so if the pinch tool doesn't work out for you, you can actually use the inflate brush, and then you can actually hold down Alt and deflate it like that. Okay, so you can see I'm actually making things a bit thinner now. They're not so thick. Okay, and that's the nice thing about the inflate brush, is that it can make things thicker and do quite an effective job at making things a bit thinner too. So you can see now she's got quite a thin body here, and that's kind of what I'm after. You know, something like that. And if there's any kind of definition that you've lost and you want to restore, obviously use the inflate brush and it can help. Same with the shoulders up here. The shoulders, she's very, very well built girl. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to reduce the overall arm size a little bit. And you can use your smooth brush as well. You don't have to use the inflate brush. Just round the shoulders out a little bit more. Maybe make them a bit smaller. There we go. I might actually reduce the size of the clavicles a little bit because they're quite out there. Bit more like that. We've got this kind of jutting section here, so let's just, there we go, smooth it out. Okay, and then we do the same for the elbows there and the forearms. There we go, just a bit skinnier, not too much though. Okay, but of course, tweak it however you like it. Okay, make the character, make the base mesh to your liking. There we go. I might just change the neck a little bit, make the neck a little bit more lean, I guess, for lack of a better term, and just kind of adjust that a bit. The neck's quite thick here, so I'm just going to reduce the size of it. And of course, the head mesh now is kind of peeking out. We can turn on polyframe to see how much is peeking out, and we can just kind of adjust that again. Tuck it into the body once more. So if you went in the tweaking of your body mesh, if the kind of head became a little bit skewed and kind of out of place, this is your chance here to kind of tuck it back into place. And there we go. Okay, so I'm happy with those changes. I think I've got the character to the degree I like it to be. She's a bit skinnier. Okay, we've lost quite a lot of the definition that we had there, but she's wearing clothes. That's not a thing that we have to be concerned about. Okay, so that's basically what I'm after there. Well, how do we get this into Marvelous Designer now? Well, generally speaking, what we could do is, this is the way I prefer to do it, is we could, let's see, we'll go ahead and get rid of the hair mesh because we don't need that. It's up to you if you want to take the teeth with you. You can take the teeth with you, the pearly whites, why not? Okay, we don't need the eyebrows. And you can keep the eyes if you like, why not? Okay, it's not going to do any harm. The head mesh, let's bring it down geometry wise to the lowest subdivision, because we're not really going to be too concerned about the head mesh. We're not going to be creating the hat in Marvelous Designer. Let's go back to our subtools and we'll go to the body part. And the body does not need to be 75,866 polys. We could get away with bringing it even lower to something like 18,000 or 20,000, but Marvelous Designer can handle it, so you could leave it at this resolution and just export it this way. In fact, that's what I think I'm going to do. But I'm not going to take the toes with me because I also don't need the toes. We're not creating the footwear in Marvelous Designer. Okay, so that's the base mesh there that I'll be exporting over into Marvelous Designer. Okay, so if I like everything I see here, I can go ahead and I can go to my merge functions and click merge visible. Okay, when I click on that, you can see a new tool has been created. When I click on that, there we go. We've got all one subtool there. It's 150 odd thousand polygons, and we're going to go ahead and use that in Marvelous Designer to start creating some of our base garments, basically. Okay. Alright, fantastic. I hope that was helpful. Again, feel free to take more time in terms of tweaking your base mesh to the way you like it and what have you. And when you're ready, go ahead and just merge visible as I showed you there. If you really like the things that you've done with the body type, you want to keep it that way, make sure to save it as a new tool. Okay, otherwise none of those changes will apply. And then go ahead when you're ready and hit export it. And I recommend you export it as an OBJ, generally speaking, but you could try FBX as well. Okay, so there you go, guys. Right, so let's go ahead and we'll export this character into Marvelous Designer.